So I just read this really great Mashable article, and it was looking at online personalization. And basically it said that online personalization is still pretty imperfect, and that we've got all this wonderful data at our disposal, but everyone's still sort of struggling to find the right algorithm to reach customers in meaningful ways. And the problem is that now there's a growing disconnect between customers and the companies that they really love. So it's fairly clear. The companies that can personalize have an edge, a way to endear customers and make them loyal for life, or at least loyal for a little while anyway. And data does help you do that. So that said, in today's webinar, our expert will discuss how organizations can achieve personalization nirvana using tools such as A/B split and multivariate testing, content profiling, segmentation targeting, and CRMs. And so with that, I would like to introduce our expert, David Spark. David is the founder of Spark Media Solutions, a brand journalism firm that helps its clients be seen as leading voices in their field through brand quality media production. He's also the author of the book, 3 Feet from 7 Figures, One-on-One Engagement Techniques to Qualify More Leads at Trade Shows. And with that, I'd love to get started. So David, let's turn it over to you.
Karen, thank you so much. And everyone should see on their screen the title of this presentation, which is Your Online Customers Expect. So that's the key thing we're going to be talking about. Expect a personalized experience. It's not a, hey, it'd be kind of nice to have this. It's, oh, no, we kind of expect to see this. And like over time, our web and online experiences have sort of developed new expectations, like what you expect your mobile phone to do, what you expect a website to do. And now this is what we expect in sort of personal engagement with a business. Let me first thank the sponsor of this presentation, Sitecore. Sitecore is the global leader in customer experience management software, committed to helping marketers own every customer experience. They provide a truly automated, flexible, and predictive customer experience management platform that seamlessly combines web content management with customer intelligence to drive real one-on-one engagement with every customer at every touch point. So we have to thank them for this presentation. This is why this is here for you. So let's jump into the definition of the personalized web. Now, there are going to be 3 terms that I'm going to use interchangeably in this presentation. They are personalized web, context marketing, and real-time marketing. Some people may debate the difference of them. I'm going to pretty much say they're generally the same, and what they are is getting the right information to the right person through the right channel on the right device at the right time. That's a lot of things to coordinate, and this is why personalized web is not easy. It's rather complex. But we're going to get into the stumbling blocks of it, how people are going about doing it throughout the presentation. So first, let's just talk about why you want to do it, and there's value of the personal web to both the customer and to the business. So for the customer, the value is marketing content that's both timely and useful. Hey, they're listening to me. That's, you can see that. But when a customer perceives a vendor as tailoring to their needs, they are 40% more likely to buy than when a vendor is not. All right, that's a very good positive reason to do the personalized web. More value specifically to the business. It increases customer engagement, and this is really the core of what we're going to be talking about. Is the point of the personalized web is to keep the conversation going with the customer, to take them through the entire cycle of the buying process. So you're improving customer experience, you're converting more, and you're improving your brand perception. And so customer trust means happier customers, and the net result is higher return on investment for your marketing dollar. And this stat we saw, the next one we saw in many locations, and that is marketers see an average increase of 20% in sales when using personalized web experiences. And specifically, 2 companies that do the personalized web extraordinarily well are Amazon and Netflix. And Amazon claims 1/3 of their sales come from recommendations. And Netflix says 75% of their users select movies based on their recommendations. And by the way, I should mention, and I'll mention at the end, you can see at the very bottom where it says sources. If you want to know where any of this data came from, go to bit.ly/ZDPersonalWeb and sources on all that information. But I'll flash it on the screen at the end of the presentation as well. I should also mention, and Karen, you can help field them, if you have any questions as the presentation's going on, that something's a little confusing, feel free to just throw out the question right away. We can address them in time with the presentation. All right. This presentation isn't so refined that I can't sort of stop down for a question. Personalization is expected, and this goes back to the title, Karen. Most customers, in fact, 3/4 customers, are frustrated with websites that serve up offers, ads, and promotions that have nothing to do with their interests. So you've seen this before, Karen, where something that's completely unrelated to you gets offered up to you?
Absolutely. All the time. Absolutely. In fact, as a journalist, I see it more because I'm constantly searching for not weird, but different things that really have nothing to do with me. And then I'll get things on my Facebook page or anywhere really that have nothing to do with anything I'd be interested in.
Well, so you have to offer sort of a certain level of leeway because of that, because well, I know why I'm getting served this up because I remember I searched for this subject before,
right,
even though it has nothing to do with me.
Right. But even so, there are some things definitely, absolutely.
Yeah. But in general, for people who are not journalists, who are not searching things that are completely unrelated to their interests, 67% of people would leave a site if their donations from a political party they dislike. 57% would leave a site if they were married and shown ads for a dating service, and 50% would leave a site if shown a recommendation to purchase underwear for the opposite gender. So it's more than just saying, hey, it's a good idea to do personalized web because you'll get a 20% bump in sales. No, it's more of a you have to do the personalized web because if you don't, you're going to make a stupid mistake like this, which is, it seems perfectly normal to offer up things that are generally relevant but could be not relevant to some people. And by doing that, you could lose an audience. And that's the last thing you want to do. If someone made it to your website, do whatever you can to keep them there. Don't be lazy and essentially make them go away, if you will. So these next stats comes from a Jan Rain study, and I'm going to I think these are a little tongue-in-cheek. I wanted to throw them up. Anyways, many would give up a lot to get personalization. And this is according to the Jan Rain study. I want to know how strongly you believe in this too, Karen. 28% would give up social networks for a week. 25% would give up chocolate for a month. 21% would give up a mobile phone for a day. 17% would give up having to use only a landline phone for a week, and 13% would give up sex for a month. Would you give up all these things for web? I mean, we do want web personalization, but would you give up these things at all?
I don't know, chocolate. That's a tough one.
The rest, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, of course. It depends. It really depends, I think.
Yeah, so 9 out of 10 marketers and agencies agree that personalization of the web experience is critical to current and future success. Okay, so remember this as we go through this presentation. Most marketers and agencies agree. You have to do this. If you want to be successful today and in the future, you must personalize. Now there is the issue that we have to address, the elephant in the room, the useful versus what I call the ick factor, which is we want to be useful to these people, but not to a point where we're like, ugh, I don't want them knowing that much about me. So more than half of users are okay providing personalization, personal information on a website as long as they see it's for their benefit and the site owner is using their data responsibly. And I know that last one, there's a lot of sort of fuzzy stuff around this about what people think is and isn't responsible data use, and then sometimes data doesn't get used responsibly when they believed it was used responsibly. That's a whole other issue about security and privacy later to discuss. But 77% would trust businesses more if there was more transparency as to how their personal information was being used. And that gets into a great example, which is what Amazon does. And they do a great sort of explanation of why they're showing you the information they're doing. So you just be transparent of why you're recommending something. Don't presume. Don't just say, oh, they're going to like this, and we don't need to tell them why they're going to like this. Explain why you're making the recommendation. So you've seen on Amazon everyone, Karen, that they
Yep.
caption it, their recommendation. So you'll see like a headline that says, customers who bought this item also bought, and then a series of products. Frequently bought together, series items. What other items do customers buy after viewing this item? And then related it to items you viewed. So
how important do you think that is for B2B as well as B2C? Is it just something that's important for B2C, or is it also just as important for B2B?
Very good question. So in B2B, you're not dealing with the volume that you're dealing with B2C. It's more of it's kind of more or less a linear journey. I mean, not so much, when you're on Amazon, you're going in 1,000 different directions. But with a B2B, and we'll have an example later in the presentation, if you downloaded an ebook or you attended a webinar and I follow up with you, then I say, hey, you participated in this webinar, so I think you might be interested in this coupon for this product, or you might be interested in this. So yes, you can relate essentially the last point of contact, but you're not going to have this sort of high volume of data points as you would on an Amazon or a Netflix. But you'll have simple data points of, I know you clicked on this link on the site, certain things like, I know you read this article, but so you might be interested in this as well. So again, there's certain, like, for example, let me give you an idea of where, and we touch upon this later, but I might as well bring it up now. It's okay to say, hey, Karen, I see, we have a special deal for Ziff Davis users, because, I can see you're coming from the Ziff Davis domain, versus, hey, Karen, welcome back to the website. Then that's a little creepy and stalking. See what I'm saying? So you kind of have to find that line. Don't cross over into the ick factor. And there's more to explain on this as we go down. Did that answer your question decently, Karen?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. So here's the big thing. What's preventing personalization? Why aren't people personalizing? Well, so lack of resources and tools. I mean, I don't have the capability to do this. Legacy, and these first three are very much connected. Legacy technology. We got this old stuff. We just can't bring it up to speed to be able to do personalization. And then connected to that is IT is setting up roadblocks. And part of that roadblock may be lack of budget. The other issue is it takes a long time to implement a fully formed version of this. And also just absence of knowledge or skill set to do this. Like, we don't know how to do this. I don't feel comfortable doing something we don't know how to do. And then this last one is the issue we'll talk more about is the ability to translate data into action. 60% of marketers note that they struggle to personalize content in real time, yet 77% believe real-time personalization is crucial. So that's the real conflict we're running into. They know they have to do it, but at the same time, they admit they're having a hard time doing it. And that is the root of the problem. One of the biggest issues is data existing in silos. We look at an Amazon or a Netflix, and the output looks simple. But there's so much sausage making going on behind the scenes that it's so complex that we don't understand, and a lot of data is coming together to make this happen. So when data is in silos, essentially owned by different business units, and they use it for their purposes and not integrated to sort of serve the common good, then it's a failure of personalization. Integration projects are viewed as painful. I mean, to get those silos to work together is difficult. And then when you can't measure this stuff well, it's hard to tell how you're going to get your return on investment. And usually, when I talk about data silos, the reason they're in silos is the data was not built to talk to the other data. And then when a company realizes, oh, no, we got to integrate the data, it's always an afterthought. It's never put in, most cases, not put into the process at the beginning. As a result, business processes are in conflict, and it's just getting worse. So how do you specific teams, they own and operate the data, and they use this data to handle that business unit's day-to-day operations, but it's not helping the organization entirely. So here's another big issue right here. And this we talked about, or we didn't talk, this is quotes from marketers and ad agencies. Companies are using an average of 12.4 tool sets to support data-driven marketing or advertising. On the high end, some were using 31 tools. So just sort of grasp this for a second, Karen. If you had to use 12 different tools and technologies to do your marketing, your job could just be using 12 tools and technology in that you have to constantly update them. You've got to know how to operate them, manage them, train other people how to use them, and they're constantly changing for that matter and breaking for that matter. That, I think, this sort of their consumption with that and not having time to do anything else is, I think, what's holding a lot of people back. Is just what they have in place is consuming their time.
I would agree, absolutely.
So from a knowledge and management viewpoint, that's just not sustainable. You can't continue to do that. So what would it take to use data better? So marketers answered this question. They said, well, we have better integration of existing tools, we improved the processes for sharing data across various tools, and there was better educated staff to lead this data integration. And that's an interesting thing to note. These last points here is they're equally concerned about integrating data as they are the talent to manage that data. The business craves customer information. Every time you talk to a business person, they go, if I only knew this about my customer, then I could give them this. And we all feel this way. And this is what web personalization can offer us. But we know so much about our customers, all right? Customer data has grown exponentially, and we now know or can deduce this whole list of things. And by the way, this is a tiny, tiny microcosm of what we can know. So very quickly, we know what devices and operating systems they use, when they use their devices, where customers travel, how often, how does it differ from weekdays versus weekends, when customers show and when customers show up and what online sources help in the purchase decision, what social networks do they read and post to, what is the sentiment of their social media posts, are they influential, are they connected to other influential people, what are they passionate about, what brands are they loyal to, all website activity. This is all trackable. This is all data that can be gathered. Clicks, time on site, page, scrolling. What emails do they open and the links they click? Plus, what do they do when they arrive to the website? And then all this data can be, if I know your profile, it can be fed into a sales contact data and CRM system, so I have a more full-fledged profile of you. And there's also customer support data can be brought in here, and so much more. But that's all of that I just described really falls under what we call ascribed behavior. We're taking past behavior, we're taking your actions, your passive actions, not what you're telling us directly, and we're forming a persona based on that. Like, you were saying, being a reporter, you search all these things, and, well, you're this eclectic person who likes all these sort of random things that may be in conflict with each other. But we can also just flat out ask visitors and customers to offer up more data, especially if it improves their experience. And again, I'm going to just reach back to Netflix and Amazon. Netflix asks you to rate movies, because I know the more that I rate movies on Netflix, the better their recommendations are going to be. Similarly, if I create wish lists and I rate stuff and I review stuff on Amazon, I will get better information back. And that is what goes back into that transparent discussion we had, is if you give us this information, we'll make your online experience more successful. Usually what happens is a hybrid approach, and this really kind of falls under the banner of content profiling. You combine both ascribed and elective, so we track your behavior and we just ask you, what do you want? And then you create a score putting weight on the different criteria. So if you specifically, Karen, say, I like this, that is probably going to have more weight than you randomly clicking around the web. But I'm not going to discount that completely. And then what happens is once we have that information, we can now target specific segments with our message. And this gets into this idea of contextual intelligence or real-time insight. So as you're actively on the site, how can I, in real time, actively serve up data information to you? And this is kind of how a lot of people perceive what, quote, big data is. What you want to do is make the information, and here's what's important with the whole idea behind contextual intelligence. If you're gathering all this data, remember we talked about data silos earlier and the need to integrate. Not only do you need to integrate the data, but you have to also make that data to all applications and devices. It's not just data that works on the web or it only works in this specific application, but it works across all. So if I'm on the mobile site or on the website or using a customer app, they know my activity and profile wherever I go. And once you know this information and once you're tracking this information, you can start to ask more nuanced questions. So these are just pure examples of nuanced questions. Which customers spend more over a 3-year period? Those who call customer support or those who email customer support? Now, if they're via phone, does that balance with the increased cost in support? Because we know phone support is more expensive than online email support. Or what are the first actions a customer engages in after purchasing a product? Can we track that behavior, and how would that be valuable to us? Who are the influencers our customers are talking to? What are they talking about? So if I know these people are customers and they're talking to influencers, what is the conversation that's happening over there? Next, and where I'm literally, this can probably be the only slide on this subject, and something both you and I do, Karen, and that is great content. Content management. You need to have content to serve up all the insights. Insights without action, completely useless. So gathering this data, collecting this data, having information on the data. Oh, I now know Karen likes this. But if I can't satisfy my knowledge of you knowing you like this, then it's a completely wasted effort. So essentially you've got two parts of the equation you've got to solve. One is gathering the data, integrating it, and pulling insight out of it. But then on the other whole side, you need the content to satisfy these needs all throughout. So you're essentially what you're doing, you're integrating your content management system with your contextual data repository. And really, the reason you want to do this and really give real-time response is you want to give them answers now so they don't look for answers later. And as a reporter, you're going to be able to answer this. You're on a site, you're looking for some information. If the site gives you the information right away, you're satisfied. You don't have to go anywhere else because inevitably, you would have to go somewhere else, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's how it works. If I don't get my answer here, I have to go somewhere else. And once I go somewhere else, well, you may lose a customer for that. And that's the thing is that somewhere else gets to then now define the conversation, which you were owning the conversation moments ago. Omnichannel automation is the process of making sure that this process goes on wherever you go and on whatever device and in whatever application. So the core thing is you're going to link all this activity to your CRM to build a full profile of your visitors and your users. And you want to now orchestrate the customer experience over time across multiple devices and experiences. And they achieve the goal of what we said at the very beginning, sending the right person with the right content on the right device at the right time. Now, I mean, we talked about a lot of things. This is not simple. It's not easy. I know, we all wish it would be easy, but there are ways to sort of juice the process in getting it going. Here's the big thing. Avoid low context sales messages. I should say if you do this, not don't do this, if you do this, your best marketing technique. So I have a bunch of double negatives here, but the idea is if you're only offering low context sales messages, your best marketing technique is guessing. I'm going to guess this is what you like. Since other services are offering personalized experiences, your visitors are going to be frustrated by non-targeted content. They'll say things like, they should know I bought this already. Hey, I'm not a pregnant woman. Why are they showing this to me? I asked for more information, and yet I never got it. And by the way, that just recently happened to me. Company offered to send me an ebook. I registered for it, never came. Now, normal thing would be to complain for it, but they didn't offer up an email to connect with them. And honestly, I then became disinterested, moved on. So, and the last thing is I buy the same product every time. Why are they still showing me competitive products? You will lose customers if you don't contextualize your content, and that was something that we mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation. It's not just about ROI. That's the important thing to stress. You can actually lose customers if you don't personalize. Take advantage of contextual intelligence. So here's how do you do this? The first thing is understand the life cycle of the buyer's journey. Now, you asked just earlier, Karen, about B2B, and B2B is actually where my business spends most of its time. And we try very much to do this when we're generating content, as we think about what is the information they need at every step of the way. You know, during the research phase, what do they need? In the getting started phase, what do they need? What can we create to solve that problem? One question I often ask clients is, what's the number one reason you're losing sales? And a common response I get is, well, they don't consider us, or they don't know that we have a solution for X. And it goes, if that's true, then you need to provide a piece of content that satisfied that confusion or that need to understand. So what you want to do ultimately is find moments of truth and delight. So when can I offer a discount, entertain, inform, or assist the person on their buyer's journey? And deliver this relevant information sometimes to upsell. Hey, just like the Amazon example, you're interested in this. Have you also considered this? And another thing is, and some companies do this, like makeup sites do this, about just educating their audience so they become savvier shoppers. So how can I teach them more about makeup or how to do more different makeup designs? And nurture the relationship. This is a key thing. While there's a major philosophy is ABC, always be closing, this is a closing technique, but you're not always going for the kill. What you're trying to do is nurture the relationship. The whole point of web personalization is constant engagement. How can I keep them in the conversations before, during, and after the sale? And the absolute perfect example of this is expectant mothers. There's a super clear timeline of when I need to send certain information. An expectant mother, first time, is concerned about her own health and about eating right for herself. But when she has a child, she's going to want to buy bottles and a breast pump and other things that are going to be necessary, and clothes for an infant be necessary, and diapers be necessary time. You do not want to be selling baby food in the first few months because the child is not eating solid food at that time. And you don't want to be selling clothes for a 2 or a 3-year-old at that time. So understand what the journey is. And again, expectant mothers is like the most perfect example because it's so clear what that timeline is. And then at some point, you're going to have to offer live expert advice. And sometimes you don't want to do things too soon. Karen, I'm sure you've seen this situation where you go to a website and within seconds of arriving, somebody pops up and says, "Can I help you?" I'm like, no, yes. Not yet. But sometimes you do want.
Yes, that is very annoying. I will sometimes just click off the site because it's so annoying.
Yeah, it is irritating. And also, you also know it's not a real person. It's usually a bot of some sort that's coming up. And when you respond, that no real person is called in. Again, your goal here is a long-term relationship. And here is the most important thing also. When I say most important thing also, another important thing. When you nurture this relationship over time, you will actually create advocates, even if they don't become a buyer. And that's an important thing to understand. Just by educating the person, you will turn them into an advocate. And that's super important because then you've got this word-of-mouth voice coming on. All right, don't rely on the historical data. You got to test. So we talked about sort of measuring the behavior and what they're going to do. So now that you're like, all right, I want to send some information out to them, how are they going to react in this specific situation? Now, these two things I think most people know, but let me just review them. One is the A/B split. You test two options of a web page, an email title, or an offer to see which one performs best in terms of opens and click-through. Now, similar to A/B testing, A/B split testing is multivariate testing, and this is when you're looking at a combination of options sort of to either create a full journey or really just to find the solution that works best. Like what headline, logo, and page color or form outlay should work the best. And does it work better on mobile? Does it work on web? And also, if you do multivariate testing well, you won't really need for A/B testing, but sometimes you just need to isolate it to 2 items at a time. And also at the very beginning, you're probably just going to do A/B testing. All right, so let's actually get into the techniques of personalization. One, and this is probably the one you're going to use the most, and that is the dynamic call to action. You're moving the visitor to the next lifestyle stage. So how do I turn a visitor into a lead? How do I turn a lead into a customer? How do I upsell the customer? And you're building a relationship with the customer, as I said, and you want to test your call to actions like what I said before, A/B tests or multivariate. And call to actions can be anywhere. They can be on your blog, your other websites, in fact, your emails, your thank you pages, your thank you emails. And I should point out, and a lot of people don't realize that, the thank you email, when I register for something and I get a thank you email, that email has the highest open rate of any kind of marketing email you'll send out there. So don't use that lightly. Take advantage of the fact that that will never be open and what else moment of engagement you can have there. Studies show that personalized click to actions deliver a 42% higher conversion rate than generic CTAs. It is worth it to do this. So this is probably your core technique you're going to use, but let's review a few others quickly. The next one is smart forms, and these are, you've seen these before. You go to a website, you start filling out your information, and it knows, like for example, you put in your zip code, it knows what city you're in, or even if you don't do that, it knows because you were before it can fill in your zip code or even your email address or phone number. Anything you can do to speed up the process to get to sale, you're going to want to do that. And then dynamic email content, this is send follow-up emails based on the visitor's actions. These are often referred to as drip campaigns. So you clicked on this link, so I'm going to send you a follow-up email here. This goes into your question also about B2B personalization. You want to segment your list based on other criteria. So if specifically you registered, you elected to only receive emails about electronics, don't send emails about clothes as well. Only send the email about electronics. So let's talk about a very possible website personalization scenario. We only have a few more slides left here. So when you're beginning your research, one thing, you come to a website, first thing you could do is you could register for an ebook and we'll send you an ebook. So that's sort of to sort of understand or maybe watch a video, anything sort of, let me capture your information and I'll give you something in return. And that's the big thing. If you're ever going to ask somebody for information, you have to make really clear what they're going to get in return. And that's why, gatekeeping high-value content like ebooks is a way to do that. So the visitor returns. So now what you can do is you see the person's comes back. What you can do is instead of then giving the ebook offer again, now give them an offer to join a webinar or to talk one-on-one with the ebook author, or the webinar could be given by the ebook author. And then after the webinar, you have that information. You can follow up a week later or follow up immediately with an email invite to start your project. If they don't start their project, maybe you can send a coupon as an incentive to begin right now. And if they do start their project, and then again, this scenario very much feeds into the B2B scenario, you could follow up with tips on how to improve the ongoing project. All right, so I gave you these tips. Or you started your project, well, how can we make it better? And that way you can really get into upselling the person. Now let's get into last couple of slides, and that is the limitations of website personalization. And you remember that huge list of ways we can measure people, and I told you it was just a fraction of what we know? Well, you really don't want to show how much you know about them. I mean, think about how creepy it would be, Karen, if a website literally pulled up the dossier of everything you know about them, or they know about you, excuse me. That would creep you out big time. And would you ever come back again?
No, and I'd probably talk about it on Facebook as well.
Exactly. So we know they have this information, and you have this information about people, so do not be too personalized, if you will. The idea is like for some weird reason we're okay seeing our email, our name and an email, but not on a website. So that gives you an idea of where you kind of have to draw the line. The next thing is there's tons of content to produce and track. We literally just kind of had one slide about it, content management, but like I said before, insight without action is useless. So if you do not have the content to satisfy all this, it's a useless effort. And again, this is something both Karen and I do. We produce content. You can only personalize when you have data. So if there's no data, there's no way to personalize, and the more you integrate the data, the better you can personalize. But lastly, and going to the very thing that you mentioned at the beginning, Karen, no algorithm is perfect. You are going to make mistakes. You should always sort of have a fail-safe or generic version of your quote offer or website that essentially sort of avoids any possibility of offending. And let me conclude with this quote. This comes from Linus Gregoriadis of eConsultancy, who actually provided a lot of the data that we got in this presentation. Knowing where you need to be and getting there are completely different things. So I go back to that conflict that we saw earlier of, you want to do this, but how do I get there? It's not so easy. I want to thank again our sponsor, Sitecore, and I want to thank you, the audience, for being a part of this, and I want to also thank you, Karen, for moderating this and being a participant. And I don't know if there's any questions that have come in, but if there are any questions, be happy to answer them for you.
Okay, we have a couple of questions, and we did go after the half hour, so maybe we'll just take 2 questions. But please keep them coming in, because if we don't get to your questions live, we will absolutely get to them after the fact. So let's take this first question, and it actually comes from John. John says, how can I see value quickly? What's the low-hanging fruit?
So that's a really good question, because I don't want people to be discouraged at the beginning here. A really, really simple way to see value is just through an email marketing campaign and a drip campaign. The idea being, if I know people click on this link, send them a follow-up piece of content here. That is a super, super simple way to quickly see the value of website personalization. And especially if you're working in a B2B environment, you don't have to do high volume. So just landing a few key customers at a time is extraordinarily valuable. And if that's all you need, then that alone could start you down the road.
Okay, let's go. Oh, we've got. Is it okay if we take more than 2? We have a lot of questions coming in.
I'm here.
Okay, so all right. So I don't know if you can answer this one, but let's see. We've got one from Syed, and he says, which is the best CMS for dynamic B2B websites?
Which is the best content management systems for dynamic B2B websites? Oh, I couldn't tell you which, but I'll tell you, ironically, a lot of people lean on Drupal for content management. They also lean on WordPress for content management as well. But specifically for B2B, I couldn't answer that. I honestly don't know which is the best one to use for that matter. But Drupal is probably the most malleable content management development platform. So that's probably where you might want to start looking. And there might be systems built upon Drupal specifically for B2B.
Okay, great. Thanks for the question. We have another question. This is from a different John. John says, please give an example of a personalized versus generalized call to action.
A personalized versus a generalized call to action. That's a good question. Okay. So a personalized call to action, and I'm just going to reference something I just said in the presentation. Personalized is, you downloaded this ebook, and I say, you've downloaded the ebook, and I go, are you concerned about XYZ, or would you like to chat with the expert, or can we give us your phone number or email, and we'll contact you, and we'll help you on your first project? Because you've already shown interest by taking action of downloading something. A general call to action would just be to have on your front page, download our ebook. And that would be kind of the big difference right there. And the thing is that you're definitely also the other thing is if someone leaves comments, that's another good sign that they are sort of a more interested lead, and I would be going after them first.
Okay. Why don't we just take one more question? Although again, just keep them coming in. I mean, we love to get questions, and we'll make sure.
By the way, you can email. I didn't put it up, but you can email me directly at david@sparkmediasolutions.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. Well, let's finish up with this question, and this question comes from Christine. Christine says, "This really seems like a monumental task. What's a good first step?"
So. It is a monumental task. The good first step is to, be collecting data and looking at it. I mean, I'll just tell you the thing that I'm always shocked by is people set up like, the Google Analytics, and then they never look at it. It's like setting up your investment portfolio and never looking at it. Good first step is, if you haven't looked at your Google Analytics, start looking at them. That'll give you a general idea of what's happening on your site. It's not going to give you the personalized. It's going to give you a general idea. And then I would also be looking at any email marketing you're doing, what people are doing there. Another technique I like to do, especially like around email marketing, is many of these tools will give a rating to the people who are your readers of your email marketing. The reason I keep bringing up email marketing is they have, if you're using any of these email marketing tools, they usually have all this personalization built in to the solution. And I know with MailChimp, they give like a star rating to how active that person is on your list, meaning they open all your emails, they click a lot of emails. So if you get a 5-star rating, and you can sort it, so you can look at all the people who are 5-star rated and see, oh, these are my most interested party. You could segment that, create another list, and say you're now part of the VIP list, and start having engagement with them and get far more personalized with them. So that's probably a good, I would say if you do email marketing, that's a good first step. Just segment your list to your most active users and try to more personalize engagement with them.
How about one more? Do you mind?
Sure.
Okay. So Sumit, I believe, says, for an upcoming new site, is there a framework to follow for a positive user experience?
For upcoming, I mean, what I hear, let me go back a few slides here. By the way, I put up the sources link here. What was the, see if I can, was this the slide I pushed up? So repeat the question again.
Oh, sure. Okay. So his question was, basically, it sounds like they're making up a new slide. They're working on a new site, and he wants to know if there's a framework to follow for a positive user experience.
First of all, I would want to talk to web developers and web designers because they are going to be the ones talking about a UX experience, or they'll be more UX experts on that, user experience experts on that. This slide very much wasn't specific to a website design as it is how you're doing the personalized offer within the website itself. So this website personalization is a possible scenario. It's not necessarily the ideal scenario because I don't know what this person's given concern or situation is. But what you should do, think about as you're building the website. This is the big thing I would think is, what can you collect? The subscribe data that you can collect. What can you learn about the people? And then how can you ask for data but immediately show them the value in return? If you give us this information, here's the awesome stuff we're going to give you. So that's the big thing that I would suggest is you really want to get them to give you information electively. But again, information electively without clearly showing what they're getting in return is not helpful.
Okay. Well, I think we're actually at the quarter of the hour, so we should probably let everyone get back to their day.
Thank you, everybody.
Excellent. Yeah, David, excellent presentation. Thank you so much for that presentation. And I'd also like to thank everyone for joining us today for this presentation of your online customers expect a personalized experience. I'm Karen Bannon, and on behalf of David Sparks, Sitecore, and everyone at the Ziff Davis family of publications, thank you for your time and have a great day.